The three panelists for our next talk, come on up if you can. I think they're getting ready back here. Sharon Kaiulani Odom is Executive Director of the Hawaiʻi Good Food Alliance in Kailua, Hawaii. Alicia Higa is Executive Director of the ʻElepaio Social Services and Chief Health Equity Officer. Waiʻanae Coast Comprehensive Health Center, and also Mary Oneha is the Chief Executive Officer of the Waimānalo Health Center, and they will give their talk here. So welcome. And they gifted me this too, this lei here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so welcome over to you guys. So
Thank you.
Yes.
Aloha. We would like to start our presentation with a short Olia chant that honors Haloa, or the halo plant. We see him as an older brother, and he teaches us that if we always take care of the land will always provide for us. And we invite all of our friends and family from Hawaii that have traveled, or those of you that want to stand up and join us, we'll do this 3 times. Kapuka haloa pa. Kapuka haloa ku makapea. Kanuya haloa uluha haloa okalau haloa ikeaula puka. Kapuka haloa ku makapea. Kanuya haloa uluha haloa okalau haloa ikeaula puka. Kapuka haloa ku makapea. Kanuya haloa uluha haloa okalau haloa ikeaula puka. Mahalo. Okay, so we're very excited and happy to be with you here today. O wau o Kaiulani ora mai ka mokupuni o Oahu, ke noho nei wau ia I ko'olau poko, and he haoli no mako e huipu me oko. So I'm from Oahu, I'm Kaiulani Odom, I live in the ko'olau poko region. We're super happy and excited to be here with you. I work for Hawaiʻi Good Food Alliance, Executive Director. We're a group of organizations that are working on our food system to ensure that our culture and our land and our community are not forgotten in the work that goes on. I'm also a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. My second great is on its way in Iowa, and they're trying to convince me to drive over there, but not sure I'm gonna make it. I'm a kumuhula. I'm a cultural practitioner of the healing arts also. And I'm very happy to be on the stage with my 2 friends and colleagues. Alicia Higa is the Executive Director of ʻElepaio Social Service. She's also the Chief Health Equity Officer at Waiʻanae Coast Comprehensive Center, but they just changed her title, and I don't know what that is.
We don't need to talk
about that. She's a grandmother. She has 3 great-grandchildren, but her last 2 have been born within the last 6 months, and she is one of the most dedicated and passionate people I know, but she is ready to quit her job and just stay home and raise grandchildren right now. So this is Alicia. Mary Oneha is the CEO of Waimānalo Health Center, and she is also an open sea swimmer. She spends her weekends going around all the beaches and swimming out in the ocean. They both run federally qualified health centers that serve the largest percentages of Native Hawaiians on our island. So we're happy to be here today. We have lots of great conferences and gatherings and intentional meetings that are grounded in culture. But the specific series of gatherings that we're gonna talk about today were inspired by the Native American Nutrition Conference. And so we wanted to share what we're doing in Hawaii that's been inspired by all the work that you folks are doing. Alicia and I were talking one day, and she had come to her first conference, and we're just talking about what a great conference and how great it is to be amongst all Indigenous people and be able to speak what you're thinking and talk about, all the things that you want to talk about. And we're like, yeah, we need to do something more targeted here in Hawaii. So we began this series of what we call Ai Pono. Ai means to eat, means to govern, and Pono is kind of culture. It's healthy, it's done the right way, and so it's kind of nutrition for us. And so we started on these series of gatherings in Hawaii that were really just focused on the indigenous knowledge, indigenous foods, the areas. And so The goals of us coming together and to providing the conference were to uplift ancestral food systems, to ground in indigenous knowledge, values, and practice, to have a place-based approach, reciprocal relationships with the land and the people. You know, the food system can be very extractive at times, and we need to ensure, especially on an island, that we work against this, that we want it to be able to serve our people, to be able to serve our land. We want to build mana. Mana is kind of our word for internal and divine power that we all have within us. We want our indigenous voices to be heard at all levels, from the ground all the way into the policy and advocacy work. And so we started with a group, and we started planning for a year. These are the components that we wanted to make sure we had, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them, but ceremony and protocol, ho'okupu, the bringing of our sacred gifts, our storytelling, how important that is to indigenous people, our songs, our chants, our land acknowledgements, the meeting spaces, the food that is who we are, that represents who we are, ava, which is our ceremonial drink that allows for the conversation, allows for the deep dive into what we're doing. Our va'a, or canoe, we use these in several of the conferences. Documentation, instead of really heavy on evaluation, we used scribes in everything that we did, so we had a record of all the conversation, and this was used a lot for our evaluation pieces. And closing a reflection and thinking about how we're going to move forward. Because as we're having this series of events, what people said to us was, okay, you had this, now what? And so that's some of what we want to talk about. We did this. This, again, was a chant. So you can see in the beginning of all of our sets, we gather together and we do our chants, we do our prayers. And not everyone knows everything, and we're not the cultural police. You know, for a certain period of time in Hawaii, you wanted things to, to be perfect. But what we found out was that that often scares people from engaging. And so finding ways for people to engage in culture and ceremony that's not scary. Okay, so this was our first one in November of 2024. People came and they brought the best gifts from their land. They did their chants from their land. They brought them all. We had a canoe that was specially built for that area, and they put them inside of this canoe. And what we want to do is to bring ceremony and protocol back into our daily lives and back into our working lives so that we can remember the things that we're supposed to remember. This is a Aina accountability. It's just an evaluation storytelling tool that was done by my friend Puni Jackson. And she talks about how as indigenous people, we come from an area, we come from a history of just being whole, one of wholeness, one of sacredness. And then as we went into disruption with colonization, with loss of land, loss of language, trauma, we became disrupted. And then what happens is that as we're trying to gain back our sovereignty, to gain back our agency, to gain back our sacredness, we get to move into ceremony and protocol, which reminds us of who we are, the best of who we are, because you don't go into ceremony and protocol without really preparing, without bringing the best to the table. And oftentimes we like to, because there's all this disruption going on, we want to start at disruption. We want to fix the disruption. But if we don't paint the picture of wholeness, if we don't paint the picture of sacred and ceremony, and we don't paint the picture of sovereignty, then we're not starting off knowing exactly where we're going. And so as we are moving through ceremony and protocol, we're remembering of what is the best of the best. Who do we want to become? What is the sacred that we all aspire to? For all of these gatherings, we wanted to create intentional spaces, spaces where you could talk, where you could dream, where you could remember. So we decided on talking circles. We didn't have any panels, we just had talking circles. And in each circle, there were either elders, an elder and a youth, there were cultural practitioners. And so you got to talk about all the things you wanted to talk to, but the lens of a fisherman, the lens of a farmer, the lens of a healthcare worker. We got to share all of these in the circle. And our circles had 4 themes. Ike in our language means the deep knowledge. And vai is wealth, but it's not wealth in the term of dollars. For us, like Native Americans, vai means water. And vai, the duplication of that means wealth. So we understood, too, that to have water, to be one with water, made you very wealthy. And so when we talk about the wealth of our food system, what does that mean? Ike ai pono, ai again is to eat, pono is to be healthy or to, in the correct way. So ike ai pono, what is the well-being? What does it take to be, whether it's the story of the young boy who knows that the kupuna, or the elder in his neighborhood, loves fish, so every time he goes fishing, he drops off fish. Or if it's the care worker that knows to sit and get your story before launching into what are the ways that we promote well-being wherever we come from. And ike aina, I again is to eat, and na is land, plural, so we understood that the land provided us with all that we need. And so it's very important. In our culture, land is so important to who we are, where we come from, where we're going, that we wanted to dedicate one session just to this. And ike mana, what is the power of food? What can we bring to the table? How do we pass this on to our youth? And so those were the 4 circles that we had. And so twice throughout the day, you could go to these circles and you could discuss all of this. The food was also very important. The food tells our stories. It connects us to all kinds of things. So we made sure that everything was served we knew where it came from. And we had the privilege of Chris, who's sitting over there. He's going to be one of the chefs at the Indigenous food tomorrow night. He was in charge of the food, so he knew where all the food was sourced from. He took recipes from his family that was passed down and put it into the food. And so as this food was served, we got to tell people where it was come. And all the food that was in the canoe was also used to make dinner that night, and anything that left over was then given back to the community or put into the community so that it was used. Building relationships and perpetuating culture through sharing of skills. Besides the talking circles, we had areas where they could go and they could weave coconut together. They could learn from limu, or our seaweed experts, because Hawaiians, out of all of the Polynesian races, use seaweed more than any of the other Polynesian races. You could drink ava and you could sit and talk. We wanted to make sure that all the learning styles, there was something for them to do. And I love what Rowan said about relationships move at the speed of trust. That's so true. We feel like the most important work that we're doing is building relationships. Governance and food sovereignty are intertwined. Pre-contact societies link food, land, and leadership inextricably. And so that's true. And we have to get the leaders, whether it's a leader of a community, whether it's a leader of an organization, where it's the leader of our world, to understand how important food and health is. You know, we fight for land, we fight for language, we fight to return all of these things, but if we're not fighting for our health, then these things aren't going to be important. So if you're a leader, you know, how many programs, you know, they used to run and they would spend all this money and then would come to the food and they'd feed the kids like hot dogs and chips. And we have to stop doing that. We have to remember that healthy eating, healthy food is just as important to our Indigenous people as all of the other aspects of the program. Culture and genealogical narratives lead food to identity, place, and spirit. So very important that our stories are connected. Food ties us to our history, it ties us to our spirit, it ties us to our elders, it ties us to our next door neighbor, it ties us to our land. All of these connections, we have to remind our kids, we have to tell our stories, we have to make sure that they understand this all of the time. And so we need to continue to link that, continue to make sure that that's part of the teaching that we do around health. Food is sacred to us. You know, the Hawaiian custom, all of our food is kinolau forms of our different gods. And so as you ate those foods, you got those qualities. And it's really hard to think about that when you're going through the drive-thru at Jack in the Box. And so we don't want them to think about food that way. But how is it important and sacred to us? And as a chant for Haloa, our older brother, one of the programs I was working in, we had this saying go, nani ke kalo. The kalo is beautiful. So anytime the kids were in the lo'i, or the kids were making food or preparing food, and if they were saying something junk or words that shouldn't be coming out when you're working with food, that is of sacredness, you say nani ke kalo, so they stop immediately. And you're not scolding them, but you're reminding them that this food is sacred and our work is sacred and we have to attend to that. And just ceremony and food and conversations are the things that we made sure to have in all of these. And like I said, we had scribes that took down everything so we could go back and to do all of this. So that was our very first one, and it was a template. And then we had a couple more, which Alicia and Mary are going to talk about. So I'm going to turn it over to Alicia right now. You can go to the podium.
Yeah. What am I pressing?
You're just going to press that one.
Aloha, everyone. First and foremost, thank you so much for having us here. We are so honored to be in this space with all of you and so happy to share the work that we've been doing for the last couple of years that was inspired by our attendance here at this conference. So I'm here to share about our Ai Pono out in Waiʻanae. And as Kailua had shared, Waiʻanae is home to the largest population of Native Hawaiians in the world. Waiʻanae is a very isolated section on the island of Oahu, and it's a coastal route. And so a lot of the conversations we had are probably different from some of the other places that our Ai Pono was held in. As Kailua mentioned, there is a format to these aha, and we always begin by opening with cultural protocol to honor our ancestors, to acknowledge the sacredness of the gathering. But also, each of these protocols are very unique to the location. For our particular aha, we were guided by our own kupuna council, our own Native Elders Council, who guided us on the specific protocol that was for Waiʻanae. Opening protocol helps to ground us in space, and it helps to also set the tone for the exchange of knowledge that's about to occur throughout the day. It also helps to foster deep connection amongst each other. As we did in the chant, Kapu Kahalua, the Ainoa is the act of breaking that kapu, or ending the, it's like the release from sacred to mundane, breaking that kapu and eating kalo to symbolize the ending of that, and allowing us to freely eat and to speak and to share knowledge with each other. This is very important to us because it helps us to feel the depth of the genealogical connection to kalo as we are about to start our conversations. Kailua shared some of the Ike circles that were created early on. We changed up one of our circles to be able to include moana, or the ocean, because we are such a coastal community. But our Ike circles created space for really intimate reflection and sharing amongst keiki and kupuna, or our youth and our elders. It ensured that all voices were heard and that everyone had opportunity to speak and share. I think for us as hosts, it was a very powerful moment for us to witness these exchanges. It was a time where our community was once again able to recognize that their own knowledge was vital to this food system. Ike Aina was a conversation that helped to remind us of the responsibility, or the kuleana, that we have to take care of our own Aina, or land. It feeds us both practically and spiritually. Participants in this circle shared not just their farming knowledge, but also practices of restoration and connecting us back to generations of knowledge. Ike Mana, or the knowledge of inner power. In this conversation, groups reminded us of the kuleana. Sorry, wrong note. Ike Mana reminded us of the conversations that sparked the fire within us. We spoke about ancestral knowledge, spiritual strength, and cultural reclamation. And as hosts, we saw how deeply connected our people really were, many expressing feelings of being recharged back to their cultural identity. And Ike Moana was an Ike circle that was unique to Waiʻanae. Hosting this Ike circle in Waiʻanae, a very secluded coastal community, reinforced how vital our ocean is to our food system and our community identity. The sharing in this circle reminded everyone of our voyaging traditions of preparedness, food preservation, and innovation that had been carried across the sea. It linked our ocean knowledge. It also helped to share us with everyone how we sustain life in times of scarcity and how we learn to adapt and be resilient. In both our Palihua and Waiʻanae Aha Ai Pono, we were privileged to bring va'a, or canoe, to be able to represent the space. Ho'okupu, or gifts, were placed from each of our participants into the va'a. And in this picture, this particular va'a was actually a va'a that has a pretty lengthy history of work in food security within our community. It was actually built about 40 years ago for a project that was helping to restore some of our fish population on the Waiʻanae coast. Did I go backwards? Sorry. So we're not really good at technology. We like to just free talk, so having these these and those in front of us is a little bit awkward, but we're getting through it. Ike Vaivai was our last circle, and through this circle, we reframed wealth not as money, but as nourishment, reciprocity, and collective well-being. My team and I back home, we have a saying that it's a kako thing, and what kako thing means is it's not a me thing, it's a we thing, and so it takes all of us working together to make this work. Like this is probably one of our favorite topics when we have our meetings, and we were really inspired. I personally was really inspired by the food that was served at the last Native American Nutrition Conference. Like the intention that went behind all the ingredients and the chefs who created these dishes was just so inspiring. And it's stuff that we do at home, and we wanted to make sure that we kept in line with that, because not everyone back home is doing that. But with our prayer and our meals, we made sure that we were intentionally sourcing from our community, and taking it even a step further and making sure that we were intentionally sourcing from like youth education programs within our community. Because as important as it is to source local, it's also important to make sure that we're growing food and leaders at the same time. And we're very, very proud of our own Chris Fujimoto. He's one of my staff at ʻElepaio Social Services, who's been incredibly helpful in the planning of our meals for these Ai Pono, and please check him out tomorrow night at the Indigenous Chef Showcase. You'll get to taste some of the ingredients that our community youth have grown in his dish, so we're very proud of Chris and all the work he's been doing. Sorry, I keep pressing the wrong button. Reflection on our event. I think based on the reflections that was shared, I think one of the most important things about the conversations that were had was an opportunity to remember. Remember and reawaken. Reminding our community that we already have the tools that we need right within ourselves, right within our own communities. And as hosts, we're very humbled to hear how much our convening had stirred these reflections and renewed commitment to food sovereignty. So I wish I could take all of you back to my space, because that's where I feel comfortable and that's where I want to share. I want you to smell the smells and eat the food and meet the people and be welcomed with the same gratitude and warmth that we feel when we come here. I can't, so I put a short video together for you to kind of transport you back to my hometown. So if we could play that short video.
Here in Waiʻanae, we know that true abundance is built on strong relationships and partnerships. It is through our collective commitment, aloha, and shared kuleana that we uplift each other and ensure that the well-being of our community. By coming together in this space, we reaffirm that our strength lies not in what we lack, but in what we share. Together, we have the power to amplify our voices and ensure that Indigenous knowledge and practices are recognized as the foundation for restoring the thriving communities that we once were. Mahalo for your dedication and presence. May this community inspire action, deepen our hilina, and strengthen our collective vision for Ai Pono and the health of our communities.
The whole spectrum of the food system is represented at this gathering. And so from the land all the way to the health clinic. Who's out there? What are they doing? What can we support? So this is also about building relationships.
Time holds no keeper, but we are the practitioners of our time. And so being able to honor those that came before us will be doing the action, not waiting. And so I love that we have this aha today to be able to aha that aho, to build those ropes, to build those connections, to build in within those fibers.
The land is chief and we are merely its servants, so we must do our part in taking care of our land.
And we can do it with the power of the people that are here.
I just feel a lot of gratitude to be able to share space with young people and everyone across our community who cares about Aina, cares about the strengths of our culture and the people in it.
Let's introduce.
The opportunity of growth, the opportunity of abundance is too great to not try.
This is our opportunity to not just sit in the old story, but also to start to think, what is that new story that we hope to tell?
Our growth is collective. Always has been, always will be.
Press that one.
We took off our shoes to be comfortable. In case you're wondering why we walk in bare feet across the stage.
Aloha and mahalo for having us here. I am really thrilled to be here and to hear the different speakers that have come before us, so mahalo. I just wanted to share a quote from one of our participants to begin my talk. It wasn't a normal conference. It allowed for real topics and stories to happen, how I can better feed myself with my own hands. So after months and planning from our experiences at Palihua and Waiʻanae, it was Waimānalo Health Center's turn to host the Ai Pono on June 6, 2025. Not an easy feat, juggling graduations, last day of school in this community, and our limited space. So reaching out to Kimi Onakane, who happens to be the chair of a Waimānalo neighborhood board, certainly set the tone for our AHA as he guided us through the protocol and the entire day as MC with his skills and knowledge of spaces and places in Waimānalo. As occurred at Palihua and Waiʻanae, the day started with providing attendees the opportunity to offer ho'okupu o makana, a gift to Akua, to Aina, or Kanaka, which was then placed on a lele, or koahu, constructed with ohe, or bamboo, handpicked by our staff with roots in Waimānalo and built with cultural practitioners and staff with much pule, or prayer, and intention. So our olelo no eao for the day was Aya no kapono o ka ho'ohuli I ka lima I lalo, a ole o ka ho'ohuli I luna. That is what it should be. To turn the hands palms down, not palms up. No one can work with the palms of his hands turned up. When a person is always busy, he is said to keep his palms down. This contributed to a focus on doing. If we know, then we should do, and our sessions followed accordingly. The first session, E Malama Aina, conducted in Kapo'ai Kukui, which is a circle of kukui nut trees in our Mala Ho'ola, which is our garden, and facilitated by Kumulena Alabright, Noilani Pereira, and Maili Taoli'i, discussed the different mea kanu, or plants, knowing where your medicine comes from and the connection with the laws of olakino, or a healthy body. This session offered participants an opportunity to prepare an infused la'au aila, or herbal oil, that could be used for food or medicine. The various la'au, or plant medicine, available were olena, melekula, kinehi, rosemary, alai'a, pa'akai, and niu oil. At the same time, E Malama Pono was discussing Ai Pono, what food as medicine means to them, and preparing a kalo, or taro, and uwala, or sweet potato, salad for lunch with Jennifer Conway and Katja Reyes-Lenchenko. Some of the responses shared about what is food as medicine were my relationship to my parents, generational stewardship, a form of pilina. We are more likely to be the solutions if we are well fed, and our ability to govern. These sessions were followed by a delicious lunch supporting the vendors within the community and having them share about the food they prepared. Additional sessions followed lunch. So e malama ohana, a visit to our WIC program with Amber Granite shared how they are integrating culture to support thriving ohana with their WIC Makeke program, providing healthy produce and poi to WIC families. A mural painted on their office wall by Malia Toa Tauli'i illustrates na mea kanu va'a, or the canoe plants, as niu, which is coconut, uala sweet potato, ulu breadfruit, noni in mulberry, ava, mai'a, or banana, and kalo. Family stories and experiences were also shared in this session. In Malamavai, this session with Jane Changdo, Kahalahilahi Vegas, Danny Arias, and Pu'u Johnson focused on aquaponics and the impact on ohana as staff and community members shared their experiences with their aquaponic systems. This session helped participants to see the ahupua'a. So the ahupua'a is the land division from the land to the sea that provided the resources for living. So this session helped participants to see the ahupua'a system in a compact physical form, actualizing what it feels like to benefit from and increase capacity of natural systems. The facilitators invited participants to prepare an organic pest spray. The last session, Imalama Ko'olau, welcomed those that have cared for the Ko'olau Poko community, some for generations, with notable lineages or associations to learn from their experiences and stories, so we can imagine how Ai Pono moves forward with the next generation. Facilitated by Noelani Pereira, we were fortunate to hear from Tammy Smith, Dean Wilhelm, Danny Bishop, and Brandon Maka'avava, all with very unique and different experiences, sharing that sovereignty is something you live and breathe. It is a way of life. The healing occurs when you stand side by side in Aina and Ai Pono as a lifestyle. It's how we take care of each other and should be said with great intention. This was a very special session that touched many participants. So in response to our Share Your Mana'o, participants responded to 3 prompts. The first prompt, Ma'aha Ai Pono experience was touched by, stated each soul that participated, from the morning protocol to the closing panel, of Ko'olau Poko visionaries who continue to practice and guide by their example and provide Ai Pono, excellent sustenance and nutrition beyond the ideal that food is medicine. Ideal and activating us to remember is strong medicine. My commitment to myself, my family, or my community with Ai Pono is grounded in our parents, grandparents, ancestors, all collaborating and uplifting in perpetuity. The next prompt, one of the best connections I made today was talking story with Auntie Tammy and having her remind me again our role as chefs, especially Kanaka chefs. Kimiona helped me to reconnect to Waimānalo with no judgment or freely sharing his mana'o. Another comment was, one of the best connections I made today was with the Aina. My mother's extended ohana comes from Waimānalo, and I do not have much ike about this Aina. It was nice to learn more about Waimānalo and the mo'olelo shared with this Aina. Other reflections from attendees included what I have here on the slide, and I'll just read the last one. The spaces I'm usually in do not offer much connection to land, culture, community, and really lead to an atmosphere of burnout and self-exploitation or extraction. Being with you all was an important and much-needed reminder that it's not possible to do this work well without that grounding, time, and connections. So I do have some recipes from our AHA and some stickers with the themes of our sessions out at the resource table, so please help yourself. And so now I'll turn it over to Kaiu.
So we just wanted to close with what's coming out of all of this. So we've met in each of the places, and You know, it was really important that we were connecting within the Ai Pono, within the areas that we live, but that we were also connecting with each other. And what we've found, especially since COVID, is that people are really siloed in the food system on Oahu. And so when we're talking about our cultural practices and protocol around food, how do we make sure that we're there and we're uplifting each other and we're supporting each other, and our stories are not just staying with us, but we're using them to support all. So one of the areas that all three of us are interested in is food as medicine, because we all work in that area. And so for the organization I work with, we have 5 pillars of good health, and we're trying to start the good health movement. What is it? Are you involved in these pillars? And so culturally grounded, food as medicine, equitable, community-based, and taking care of the land. It's very important that as we work, that's all together. But we're also looking at the nutrition supports pyramid. And one of the things that you folks couldn't tell from looking at the slides was we had practitioners, but we also had doctors. We also had, people that weren't usually used to meeting like this. In fact, in one of Mary's slides, there was actually the head of the MedQuest office. And Hawaii has a MedQuest waiver now. And we were the first to put in that we wanted our food for MedQuest to be locally sourced. We didn't want our farmers to be left out. And so in the beginning, when I started being involved, and let's face it, the indigenous food system has been doing food as medicine for way back when. And so this new food system that we're trying to build, which is sustainable and land-based, and we've been doing that for like a really long time, right? And so I always laugh when they bring up food as medicine, because I'm like, that's been our work for a long time. We've been doing that. But it has a name now, and it's getting traction, and we can use that to benefit our communities. And so the head of MedQuest, which, is never usually comes out to these types of things, has been attending our AHA because they want to understand about our communities. But the lighter green parts of this pyramid, which is about the medically tailored meals and which is about the federal nutrition support, we added on the bottom 2 layers to this pyramid, empowered local farmers and land accountability. Because if we're making decisions on what's best for the land and not what's going to make us the most money, we're going to be making very different decisions most of the time. And so as we work in food as medicine, as we continue to try and get all the foods out, we want to get our cultural foods into the boxes. We want to support our local chefs. We want our farmers to be able to be part of the Medicaid system. We presented at our local ag conference. And for many of the farmers, when they hear food as medicine, when they hear Medicaid, they don't think they're a part of that. And so how do we make sure that all of this is included when we're working on getting health for our food? And so we want to make sure that as we're working in this area that we're really concentrating on local and sustainable, that traditional knowledge is a part of everything that we do, and that there's a cultural relevance. We don't want to be going to Instacart. We don't want to be going to Safeway gift cards. We want it to be kept within our aina, within our places.
Some of our next steps is we recognize that there is interest from many others who came to the AHA who want to do their own AHA. So we'd like to support the neighbor islands in the state of Hawaii in doing their own AHA. These gatherings also help us move towards creating a larger AHA that will include those from the different local gatherings. And through these AHA, we're able to create networks, support, and opportunities for application of knowledge and practice beyond the gatherings.
And some of the lessons that we learned, things that we already knew. Culture is critical. The cultural practices and knowledge provide the foundation that we need. But more importantly, like relationships. It's so, being together, I think our communities are so hungry for these spaces, these gathering opportunities to share knowledge and to strengthen pilina, or to strengthen relationships, to do the work. I think with the way things are happening on higher level, a lot of our funding opportunities have been taken. And I think more so now than ever, we need to really band together and start working collaboratively, finding out what resources are in place in what sections. And so providing these spaces to be able to share those opportunities with each other and ways that we can partner is so important in continuing to build out our food system. I wanted to thank our funders, and I know Mark Ford from Feeding America is here, and I just wanted to send a really special mahalo to him. Mark Ford introduced my team and I to this conference 2 years ago, and it was, we call it chicken skin. It was goosebumps. Like, we were just so inspired, and it was one of the most amazing opportunities. We couldn't stop talking about it when we got back. So mahalo to Mark Ford, Feeding America, and all the rest of the funders who helped to support the work in putting on these AHA Ai Pono within our community.
People often ask, how much does it cost? Our AHAs have, the places have actually picked up a lot of the cost. The food's been donated, the health centers. And so we're only spending about $5,000 on each one, but that allows us to have 4 on Oahu and 1 on each of the major islands. We have funding for that. And so we've been able to do it at a relatively low cost, but that's because of the community and of all the people that have donated their time, their food, and the services to us.
And a really big mahalo to our steering committee. We have had so many amazing organizations help to partner and help to guide these AHA. And I'd like to ask our steering committee members who are here in the flesh to stand up. And if you could give them a round of applause, because so much time and commitment has gone into this, putting these on. And I just want to mahalo them. And if you want to come to Hawaii, you need to stay in touch. So this is the contact information for all 3 of us. And of course, we welcome you to come and visit us, come and see our space. We'd love to share more with you.
Yeah, it's always fun to come out to other places and to talk about our work, but there's nothing like setting your foot on the ground in Hawaii and actually experiencing and tasting and talking. And so the invitation is always open for all of you. We just want to close with a big thank you that the word in our language and our culture, our words have many meanings. And so the word aha that we've been referring to, it talks about a gathering or the coming together of people, but it's also a word for sacred prayer, sacred intentions, and it's also the word for cordage or braided rope. And we know that in our culture, when you're braiding together this rope, you're putting only good thoughts, only good intentions, and all of that. And so as we close our section on the AHA and our metaphorical braid with all of you, we want to braid together our prayers, our intentions for all of us to have good health, and for all of us to stay connected and to continue to build the relationship. So thank you to all of you.
Yeah. Can I just say one more thing, Denisa? I was so inspired by the last conference and your unhealthy food tax. We want to learn from you to bring that unhealthy food tax to our state.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We need a whole conference on that.
We totally do.
The Healthy Donation Act and taxing unhealthy food, because that unhealthy food, junk food, is, it's terrorizing and also colonizing our guts, our microbiome, and causing so many diseases and food-related illnesses that we need to really capture that and do something. But we'll talk about that tomorrow morning a little bit, because it is something that it's not everyone's cup of tea as well. So there's pro-unhealthy food, and then there's those that, want more food sovereignty. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for sharing such beautiful experiences. And the first question that we have here, I don't know who wants to take this. What advice would you give to a community that would want to host a gathering like this in their own communities? How do you get community involvement?
I can start. What you saw, our very first one, we had met for, I want to say 9 months to a year. And we met like every 2 weeks for a while, then every week, but we gathered together the different organizations and they all sent someone. So there was a lot of, even though it's 3 of us sitting up here, we're talking about a lot of people that were involved. And so for every single part of it, people could reach out to who they knew in their community. So like the food, people donated food, they brought food. For the speakers, we didn't really pay the speakers. It's something that I advocate for when we're having speakers is to, you want to pay them for their time. But for this gathering, it was really built on giving back to your community and involvement and people gave freely of their time and of their, the other things that you didn't see were all the gifts on the table. I know Mary, they had chili pepper oil, and Alicia folks had the plants that you saw up there. Those were the youth group that recycles cardboard boxes into planters and had plants in there. And so there was a lot of community involvement, but I'll see if they...
Yeah, I would just add that when you gather a room of practitioners and you ask them to bring someone else that they think would bring important knowledge to the conversation, it's very easy to gather. I mean, they know who they think is an important voice that's missing from that conversation. And I think by asking them to go ahead and include, invite for the next one other practitioners that can lend to the conversation, you just slowly web out and grow and grow, and yeah.
I would just add, you just ask. I think the community is ready. And so they were more than happy to participate with our AHA.
I don't know if you saw the pictures of Mary's protocol, but you saw all the figures, and that came from a group that had gathered together to relearn the art of weaving together, and they had all picked someone from our cultural genealogy that they wanted to depict, one of our gods or someone that represent, and they all showed up. It was such an amazing sight, because we haven't seen this in years, but to have them all lined up and to be standing guard and to hold space for everybody, but that was again through your connections in Waimānalo.
Thank you for sharing that. The next question, how do you ensure that food as medicine remain defined by indigenous communities and not the US government, who does not have the cultural competency but likes it as a buzzword? Which in Denebizad in Navajo, food is medicine, we say, "Iyan yahat egi nanase eze." So I think it really starts too with language, but I'll pass it to you.
Right, so like I said, I feel like we've been doing food as medicine from time and all eternity. We knew food was medicine from all of it. For us, it takes, and just for myself, it takes being involved in the conversations. And so whether it's on a national level or whether it's home at Hawaii, we have to keep giving our message. We have to know what our message is. We have to know, but it's not easy, because they're controlling the dollars, and then we're trying to make sure that we're staying in contact with them, we're inviting them to everything, but in the end, they still have the control. So we have to make that not our end goal, right? We want to be involved in food as medicine, we want them to evolve, but we have to have our own sovereignty over what we do. And so all of these AHAs, food as medicine is an important part of it, but our control of our food system, the control of our lands, the control of the sovereignty of our people, that's our outcome anyway, whether or not food system goes through. And so that's what we have to keep in mind. What is the ultimate goal? It's a sovereignty over our own lands and our own foods. And so that's the ultimate goal. And if we can get the food as medicine people to be in line with us, that is great. And we're all working on that. But for now in Hawaii, there's no guarantee. And nationally, there's no guarantee. Yeah.
Anyone else?
The only thing I have is, I think you all may agree, we don't have to be dependent on the U.S. government. That there are many private organizations that are more than happy to fund our work. In fact, in one of the slides that Kaiu showed, Weinberg Foundation has been at every one of our AHA. And they've been very instrumental and pivotal in understanding, at least the staff that we have in Hawaii, have been very understanding of what we're doing. So I think cultivating the private organizations is also very helpful.
I would say standing strong to what your beliefs are and what your values are, attract the right type of funders.
Definitely, and also tribes have inherent sovereignty to practice, to be the curators of our solutions for our communities, and it's really important, that we join in these conversations and take the USDA to have a conversation, not just Uncle Sam's dead animals, right? USDA. Take it to a greater, sorry if anyone's working for the USDA in here, but that's what my uncle says all the time. Like, yeah, we need to redefine these certain things, okay? It just gave me the chills. Do any of you work with the Hawaii DOE to add traditional foods to school menus?
Yes, and we've done some great work with, we just finished, and Kristen's here, she's was actually in charge of the project, but we got $3 million from the Department of Education to do local food boxes for families in Hawaii, and all of that money went to our food hubs, and so they sourced all of that locally, and we were up against another agency that was not going to do that. And so we were able to keep that money all in Hawaii. But that was a one-time thing. They've also just met to try and get breadfruit and poi or kalo into the food. So here's the problem with our deal. Sorry, are we recording this? Do I have to watch what I say?
Just beep it out.
So we have this system in Hawaii, we call it ahupua'a. So it runs from the mountain to the sea, and everybody within the ahupua'a, they trade, they take care of each other. You know, you know what's going on in this ahupua'a, and you take care of each other. And I've listened to food systems, I've listened to some of the big corporations, and the question was, can we get breadfruit into our school food system? And the answer was, no, because we can't get enough for every school to be feeding, to make this one recipe on this one day. Well, if we continue to think like that, we're not gonna be able to do it. We have to see what's available within each of the ahupua'a, which ones support it, and just get it into those schools at time. And so, you know, this very thinking about your place and your community and taking care of your community first and then moving outward is where I think to go. As long as we try and be these big systems that think they have to feed everybody breadfruit on Tuesday for lunch in this one recipe, it's going to be very hard. But we are making progress, and they just met, I know Kristen knows more about this, about getting poi into the school food system. Yeah.
And for us, for ʻElepaio Social Services, we serve the entire 96792 Waiʻanae coast of Oahu. It's the western coast of Oahu. The way that we were bringing in local foods for our keiki or our youth in the schools was we operate school pantries. So after school, we're providing fresh local produce, healthy snacks, some pantry foods because our community is so food insecure that kids are not having food when they go home from school. And so we make sure to include and purchase specific foods that we know that our family members can't afford. A lot of poi. When ulu season or breadfruit season happens, we're purchasing from backyard growers and making sure that all of those items are going out through our school pantries.
I want to shout out for Alicia's elder program too, that they have elder pantry, and they buy from Ma'o, which is one of the largest organic farms on their side of the island. They purchase food, but they also purchase food and then they give it to the high school culinary that then makes, you know, soups or dishes that go to the elders. And we've been out there and they line up at like 7 o'clock for a 10:30 food pantry. And so they really need the food, but they make a special effort to make sure that it's healthy and includes local foods. Sorry, I'm talking.
No, thank you.
Okay, the last one. Thank you for the invitation to your home. There's some natives in Hawaii who discourage visiting the island, so some may feel conflicted. And I'm curious of your thoughts. Thank you again for welcoming.
Come see us, we'll take care of you. But I think it's more the disrespect that often people come into our islands with, the disrespect for our culture, the disrespect for the land, that quite frankly people are tired of. But if you come in with a genuine desire to learn and to just, you know, not be extractive. What can you do to not be extractive when you visit? And, you know, I've traveled all over the world and people are always very kind and very generous. And so, you know, I welcome people, but I welcome them to take care and to malama our land and our people, to take care of our people with the care that you would want someone to come to your land and do the same thing. So yes, please come, look us up. We'll take you and make sure that you're taken care of.
And fed well.
And fed well.
Any more comments? Yeah, well, thank you so much. And I really love the brother that said that we are the practitioners of our time. And I think it's really true during this time, especially with everything, like you said, it's turbulent times, that we are the ones we have been waiting for. And you guys are the examples of that. And it really touches our hearts to have you here. So let's give them a strong applause. But wait. A strong applause is what? Clap and show your muscle, okay? For our matriarchs here, everyone, strong applause, everyone.
Thank you. I'll take this. Can I grab a water? I'm going to take one. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.